Afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Michael Green. I'm the Senior Vice President for Asia and Japan Chair here at CSIS and a professor at Georgetown. And it's our great honor today to welcome one of the rising stars in Japan's leadership, Tomomi Inada, who is currently the chairperson of the Policy Research Council, the Seichokai, which within the Liberal Democratic Party sets party policy, moves policy questions up through different subcommittees within the party as it prepares to then take them to the Diet. So it's a very important position, one of the top 3 positions in the Liberal Democratic Party, and a sign of how central Inada-sensei's role has become in Japanese politics and in the government of Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Inada-sensei graduated from Waseda University in the Faculty of Law. She's a lawyer, which, as you know, in Japan is no small thing. She's had a variety of key posts, including Judicial Affairs Committee and Administrative Reform. She hails from Fukui Prefecture, which is, to my impression, famous for 2 things in particular. One is washi, rice paper, and the other is eyeglasses. These are actually not Fukui eyeglasses. Inada-sensei's are. Fukui, her home area, makes the best eyeglasses in the world. Some of them as thin as paper and indestructible. And Fukui has many other strong and admirable characteristics. I'll invite Inada-sensei to give some opening remarks, and then I'll join her for a brief discussion on stage, and then we'll open it up to your questions. So please join me in welcoming our distinguished speaker today, Chairperson Tomomi Inada.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I am Tomomi Inada, the chair of the Liberal Democratic Party's Policy Research Council. I am responsible for the policies for the ruling Liberal Democratic Party. Having been brought up by my father, who was an English teacher, I hope you all understand my English. While my English is not exactly perfect, my 10 years of experience as a politician has taught me what I need in a speech. The essentials are my vision, passion, and these glasses. 2 years ago, I had the honor of winning Japan's Best Eyeglasses Award. Let me get back to that a little later. I would like to begin by discussing the achievement of the Abe administration today. Let me highlight 3 areas: economic and fiscal decisions, diplomacy, and women's empowerment. Our first task after regaining power was the revitalization of the nation's economy. As you know, we have implemented the policy known as Abenomics, unleashing the so-called 3 arrows: monetary easing, fiscal stimulus, and structural reform. The Abe government has nearly completed the task of leading the nation out of its 15-year deflationary spiral, with tax revenues exceeding projections each year. In the second Abe cabinet, I became Minister of State for Regulatory Reform and vigorously implemented regulatory reforms. One of the major challenges for us was to reform Japan's agricultural cooperative system for the first time in 60 years. Until then, agricultural organizations were the LDP's largest bloc of supporters. We have transformed this structure. Under the new system, agricultural cooperatives will not be a simple lobbying group. They now pursue their proper mission, assisting farmers by marketing fresh agricultural produce at the highest prices possible and delivering fertilizer and farming equipment at the lowest prices possible. The government will help increase farmers' income through the expansion of sales channels and exportation rather than supplementing further income through subsidies. Japanese agriculture will become strong and able to cope with the impact of the TPP. Another challenge was the increase of the consumption tax rate from 5% to 8% in April 2014. It will be raised again to 10% in April 2017. I myself launched a special committee on fiscal consolidation with the LDP. It formulated a sustainable framework for social security and put forth a policy for expenditure reform. Our generation should not carry forward the fiscal burden to future generations. There will be no fiscal consolidation without economic growth. At the same time, there will be no fiscal consolidation without structural reforms. The most important thing is not to put off urgent reform just because of concern over the next election. Jean-Claude Juncker, President of the European Commission, says, "What we all know what to do. We just don't know how to get elected after we've done it." This shows how important the political leadership is. Having this in mind, I myself will continue to inspire reform to our people as a politician. Moving on to diplomacy. The essence of Abe foreign policy is proactive contributions to peace and human security. One of the main pillars of Japan's diplomatic policy is to reinforce its alliance with the United States. Prime Minister Abe spoke of the Alliance of Hope in his address to the U.S. Congress. We thank the United States for its strong commitment and the dedication of its military personnel under the Japan-U.S. Security Treaty. 2 weeks ago, the Abe administration passed the legislation for peace and security. This allows Japan to make greater contributions to peace in the international community and reinforces our security alliance with the United States. Japan will no longer remain as a bystander. We attach great importance to the concept of human security. We want to create a society in which all people around the world can live in peace and safety. For example, I want to make sure that all of the children around the world can attend school and study with peace of mind. In March this year, the Japanese government committed 42 billion yen, $350 million US, in official development assistance for girls' education for 3 years from 2015. We will continue our global contributions. Japan has sent over 10,000 personnel on a total of 14 United Nations peacekeeping missions over the last 20 years. The promotion of the rule of law is our priority. In 8 Asian countries, we are helping to establish good governance and develop suitable investment and business environments. Thirdly, women's empowerment is a major challenge. We recently passed a new law to promote women's social participation, and it stipulates that companies draw up action plans for recruiting, appointing, and fostering the female workforce. It was some 30 years ago when I became a lawyer. I was 25 years old when I began looking for a job at a law firm. But no one was prepared to employ a young woman. My husband, who passed the bar exam at the same time, had countless job offers. Yet I had none just because I was a woman. Or at least I want to believe that was the reason. Eventually, I was offered a job at a law firm with the condition that I would not marry for at least 5 years. Today, we cannot even imagine imposing such a condition. However, in terms of gender equality indices, Japan is ranked the 104th out of 142 countries around the world. This is due to dismal results in the ratio of female senior managers at companies and the extent of women's political participation. Women account for just 10% of all Diet members. It was exactly 10 years ago that I became a politician. I was the first female lower house member representing my electorate in 59 years. The Japanese phrase M-curve refers to the transition of the number of women in the workforce with a major dip in the middle. For parenting age women, as they typically leave the workforce when they marry or have a child, only returning to work once their children are grown. How to encourage these women to return to full-time employment is a major issue. Policies for women's empowerment do not only benefit women. When working as the minister in charge of regulatory reform, I advocated the reform of working hours in order to create a society that facilitates versatile ways of working. We must assess workers on outcome, not on the number of hours. We also need a mechanism to review our work-life balance, not only to make it easier for women to work, but also to help men and lead more fulfilling lives. In late August, we organized the second session of the World Assembly for Women in Tokyo. To support women's empowerment, we wish to encourage similar initiatives to promote public awareness and exchange good practices around the world. I would like to now talk about the challenges that Japan faces for the future. As I have already talked about economic and fiscal policy, diplomacy, and women's empowerment, I'd like to focus on culture and youth exchange. Japan's rich traditions and culture have already attracted strong interest overseas. As the first minister in charge of the Cool Japan strategy, I initiated a number of activities. I was pleased to see many people overseas deepen their understanding and sense of closeness to Japan. What is the Cool Japan campaign? I will say it is about making full use of Japanese technologies and Japanese people's noted attention to detail in order to creatively resolve issues around the world. Cool Japan is also a campaign to disseminate Japan's positive properties on a personal level. For example, I am from Fukui Prefecture, which is famous for its production of eyeglasses. The first thing I did after being appointed as the minister in charge of the Cool Japan strategy was to start wearing glasses. I have good eyesight. Yet I choose to wear glasses as an accessory coordinated with my clothes in order to promote my hometown's specialty. I have 17 pairs of glasses. In fact, I won Japan's Best Dressed Eye Award. One of my most memorable experiences promoting Cool Japan took place in Paris in an event called Tokyo Crazy Kawaii Paris. Please see the slide. The most beautiful lady in the center is me. My 21-year-old daughter told that I put the crazy in Tokyo Crazy Kawaii Paris. But I think that's the essence of Cool Japan is everybody to come together and enjoy themselves. Another task is strengthen exchange programs for young people, especially with neighboring countries such as the Republic of Korea and China, to build stronger ties for future generations. Young people have access to a vast wealth of information through social media. In the process, they become interested in international affairs, but they can also develop misunderstandings based on false or biased information. Some surveys show that as many as 90% of international students from China and the ROK return to their countries with a positive view of Japan. Direct human contact allows people to share emotions, leading to mutual understanding and trust. We want to further promote opportunities for youth exchange for further future generations. You may have heard of the JET program. Under the JET program, many young people from the United States have stayed in Japan as English teachers. This program has made significant contributions to boosting mutual understanding between Japan and the United States. I am convinced that maintaining and further promoting exchange programs will lead to resolving even the most difficult issues between Japan and China or the ROK. I would now like to discuss my personal vision for the future of Japan. The US presidential election will be held in the fall of next year, with many candidates already staging fierce campaigns. If I were to ever run in a presidential race, I'd love it to be in a historic three-way race between three female candidates: Hillary Clinton, Carly Fiorina, and myself. I'm sure I could add something to what already promises to be a very interesting presidential election. But since this is not possible, let me now talk as a Japanese politician about my vision for the future of Japan. My political motto is tradition and creation. To truly reform is to create something new while maintaining tradition. Reform without tradition, without a platform, is just empty. At the same time, merely maintaining tradition suffocates any hopes for positive change. I believe in preserving what must be preserved, and continual reform is necessary to achieve this end. Secondly, I believe Japan must continue to strive to be a society that gives opportunities to all people. Prime Minister Abe is living proof. Mr. Abe became Prime Minister in September 2006, but he resigned in September of the following year due to illness. Mr. Abe was harshly criticized, and nobody imagined that he would once again become Prime Minister. However, Mr. Abe ran as a candidate for the president of the LDP in 2012. He captured a miraculous victory in the election for the presidency of the LDP. A true champion is not someone who does not fail, but who stands up again even after they fail. I want to assist such people. Thirdly, I believe people who have been fortunate in life have the obligation to help those in need. Regardless of where you were born and what upbringing you had, you should be assured of the equal right to education and medical care if you fall ill. Japan's universal health insurance system is the source of national pride. For this reason, our social security system must be reformed and made fiscally sustainable. Fourthly, I want to work toward creating a society that respects and accommodates all people equally. All individuals are born with their own unique attributes. That must never be a reason for a person to be disadvantaged or discriminated against. While being a conservative politician, I am also a strong believer in eliminating prejudice against the LGBT community. Lastly, I believe that Japan should evolve from an economic superpower into a moral superpower. A moral superpower is a free and democratic country that is respected and valued by the rest of the world for its high level of morality and ethics. It is a country that makes active contributions to build a global society where everyone around the world can live in peace, safety, and happiness. When the Great East Japan earthquake occurred, many people sacrificed their lives in order to save others, and many people around the world were impressed with the behavior of the survivor and their ability to face great challenges calmly. Another aspect of Japan as moral superpower would be Japan providing solutions to common challenges. Japan is one of the first nations worldwide to face a number of social problems, including an extremely low birth rate and highly aged population, energy problems, and the need for drastic fiscal consolidation. I have no doubt Japan will emerge as a moral superpower that is respected around the world once the nation starts presenting other countries with solutions to common challenges. To this end, the entire Japanese population must perceive the country's challenges as their own business and become actively involved in resolving them. Japan's future lies in the quest to build a participation-oriented society. This is the spirit that was called for in President John F. Kennedy's famous inaugural speech. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Today, I offered my personal views. Based on those views, I wonder if I would be defined as a conservative or liberal in the United States. The Liberal Democratic Party is Japan's conservative political party, but it is ideologically diverse. What is important is to create a society that values the unique qualities of individuals and provides support to help them meet their full potential. A society that rewards those who try hard and succeed, and that lends a hand to those who try hard but do not or cannot succeed. I'm sure that there are many US politicians who share the same view. As a politician, I will continue to support the Abe administration by promoting reform in Japan with the philosophy of tradition and creation. And I will do my part to strengthen the alliance between Japan and the United States. Thank you very much for your attention. ありがとうございます。
通訳はこっちで、真ん中ですね。で、先生はお願いします。Please, we'll now have a brief discussion up here and then turn it over to the audience for questions. That was a great speech, Sensei. Thank you. The idea of a conservative who's progressive, I find personally very appealing. And in opinion polls now, 2/3 of Americans don't trust the Democratic Party, 2/3 of Americans don't trust the Republican Party, and 2/3 of Americans trust Japan. So you might win. You might win. There is a problem with this. There is a problem with the Constitution, though. So you're probably better off staying in Japanese politics and rising to the top there. I want to ask a couple questions. I'm not going to ask about crazy kawaii because CSIS doesn't do crazy or kawaii. But let me ask you about reform first. Your resume has the word reform a lot. You've had a lot of positions in charge of administrative and economic reform. You're also from Fukui, which is an agricultural region. This week, the TPP negotiators are meeting in Atlanta. If they get a deal, are you confident that it can be ratified and moved through the Japanese Diet, even with the upper house election coming next spring?
TPP に関しては大きな議論がありました。実を言うと、私も民主党政権時代は TPP 民主党政権時代、日本でね、は TPP に実は反対していたんです。
Yes, there have been a lot of discussions on TPP. As a matter of fact, when the Democrat Party had the administration, I was then against TPP.
TPP 反対議連の幹事長をしていたんですが、それは民主党政権ではこのような大変大きな国益のかかった外交交渉ができないと思っていたからであって、安倍政権における TPP については私は推進すべきだと思っています。
So I was in charge of a group that was against TPP, and that was because I felt that the Democratic Party did not have the ability to negotiate on such a big national interest involved issue. But after the Abe administration came in, I felt that they will be able to negotiate.
TPP の価値はですね、一つは共通のこの経済圏を作るという意味があると思います。 それともう一つはやはり価値観を共有する外交上の仲間を作るという意味で私は非常に有益なものだと思っています。
And also, what the value that TPP gives, it will give the common economic zone to work in, and also it will give us it will make us diplomatically share the same value.
で、一番大きな打撃を受けるのは農業と言われていたんですけれども、それについてもいくつかの基準というかですね、国会で決めていて、それをクリアしている限り TPP 国会で承認をされることは間違いがないというふうに思っています。安倍政権における非常に重要な経済、そして外交上のツールの一つが TPP だと思っています。
As for the agriculture, it's been said that it will take the most impact from TPP. However, once the standards that are put up by the negotiation is cleared, then I can see the Diet clearing this agreement and be taken up because to Mr. Abe, TPP is one of his tools, which is also economic development and also for diplomacy.
So the burden then is squarely on Mr. Froman and Mr. Amari.
そうですね、安倍政権になってからフロマンさんと甘利さんの間で国益をかけた非常にタフな交渉が続けられていて、フロマンさんはアメリカの弁護士さんでもいらっしゃいますので、でも今回来週ですか、今週ですか、開かれる TPP の大臣折衝で TPP が成立することを強く願っています。
Yes, true. It is between after Abe Seiken came in, Abe administration came in, Mr. Froman and Mr. Mari has been negotiating very strongly on basis of each other's national interests. However, I think that this will continue, and also Mr. Froman is a U.S. lawyer, attorney, and I think that at the end of this week, I guess, at the ministerial trial, I'm really hoping that they will conclude to an agreement.
Japan, thanks to the leadership of your government, has passed new security legislation, which is, I think, overwhelmingly welcomed in the U.S. and much of Asia too. Moving forward to strengthen the U.S.-Japan alliance and Japan's own strategic position, a lot of people in Washington, including me, think that there has to be improvement in relations between Japan and Korea. And the difficulties between Japan and Korea now are mostly about history, not about the future of Asia or the U.S. And you had some good suggestions on the importance of educational exchange and the impact of educational exchange. But I wanted to follow up and ask, what else do you think should be done to move forward this relationship that's really critical for the United States, frankly, and I would think, of course, for Japan and Korea as well?
まずこの平和安全法制が成立をして、私もワシントンに生きて、多くの方々から要人の方々から評価されていて、非常にそれは嬉しく思いました。
After this peace security law has been established, I have come to DC, and I was very happy to hear from many people in the area congratulating us for it.
集団的自衛権の一部を行使することを含む今回の法案は、第一安倍政権からずっと議論をしてきて、ようやく法律になりました。
And for this new law, which includes the collective defense right, has been discussed under the Abe administration for a long time and has become a law.
で今回の法案には集団的自衛権だけでなくて、PKO の活動を増やすとか、さまざまな実際上の国際貢献にとっても重要な法律です。
And also, this bill not only talks about collective defense rights, but also increasing the peacekeeping operation activity and allow us to participate more in such activity and contribute to the world.
でこの法律の意義はもちろん日米間の同盟が強くなるということもありますけれども、この同盟が強くなることによって東アジアの地域に力ではなくて法の支配を普及をする、そういう強い発信になったと思います。
And also, this bill means that not only would it strengthen the alliance between the United States and Japan, but it will bring to the East Asia not order through strength, but through rule of law.
そしてそのためには日米関係と、そして日米韓の3国のいい関係と情報と、そして協力が不可欠だと思っています。
And in order for this to happen, I think it is very necessary that among the three countries, the United States and Japan and Korea, have good relationship and have good information of each other and have good coordination.
言い換えると、日米のみならず韓国3カ国の強い関係がなければ東アジアの安定は図れない、法の支配の普及は難しいというふうに安倍政権は認識をしています。
In other words, Abe administration recognizes that unless there is a strong relationship and alliance between the three countries of Japan, United States, and Korea, it will be very hard to establish rule of law in East Asia.
それなので、もちろん韓国との間には、歴史認識問題など難しい問題は抱えていますけれども、常に安倍総理はドアは開いている。そして何回も実際に会ってお話をするということがすごく重要だと思っています。
And then, of course, there are different things among the relationship between Korea and Japan. There is the issue of historical perspective, difference in historical perspective. But Prime Minister Abe says the door is always open. So I think it is important that one meets and talks to each other.
And there is a trilateral summit scheduled and presumably some bilateral discussions. So there is some opportunity coming up to take advantage of that dialogue. Let me open the floor and just briefly identify yourself. Questions, not speeches, if you could.
Thank you. I'm Tom Reckford with the Foreign Policy Discussion Group. As a follow-up to the question that Mike just asked, what can be done to improve the troubled relationship between Japan and China?
21世紀の最大の課題は中国とどのように付き合うかだと思っています。
I believe one of the biggest issue in the 21st century is how to deal with China.
第一次安倍政権の時に総理が最初に選んだ訪問先は中国でした。
When Abe had the first administration, the first country that he visited was China.
それ以来、安倍総理は中国との関係では互恵的戦略関係、戦略的互恵関係、戦略的互恵関係という関係を築くということを柱にしています。
And ever since that, as far as relating to China, Prime Minister Abe uses what is called strategically mutually beneficial relationship and use that as a pillar.
もちろん日本と中国との間には歴史認識の問題やまた東シナ海の問題、そして尖閣の問題など困難な問題があります。
However, in order to have the relationship between China and Japan, there are issues such as historical perspective, East China Sea, Sankak Islands, and such.
それぞれの課題について言いたいことはたくさんありますが、でも日本は引っ越すことはできないんです。
And for all these issues, I can be able to say a lot, but it is impossible for Japan to move to somewhere else.
そして経済等では非常に大きな関係もあります。
And of course, economically, we have a big relationship as well.
なので中国との関係は冷静にそれぞれがそれぞれの国益を追求しつつ関係を戦略的に築いていくということが重要だと思っています。
So as far as the relationship with China, it is very important to remain calm and pursue each other's national interests, and then bring things forward little by little.
Thank you. Is that Ben?
Thank you very much. I'm Ben Self with the Mansfield Foundation. Thank you for your comments and your positivity. I appreciate that very much. He stole my question, but I have another one about domestic politics. You described the conservative, progressive content, ideological content of the LDP, very wide party. We had in the 1955 system what we've called a one-party dictatorship, itodokusai, problem in Japan. And part of the reforms in the 1990s were aimed at creating a political system where there's more policy competition between parties to foster dynamism in Japanese politics. And we in the United States welcomed the emergence of a proto-two-party system in Japan. But now, with the collapse of the DPJ and its fall into very low levels of popularity and low likelihood of really challenging the LDP, what's the prospect for this kind of policy dynamism or creativity that we get from a two-party system? How can you envision that in the future of Japan?
例えば例を挙げるとですね、民主党時代に消費税を引き上げるという難しいことが決まったんですね。それはどうしてかというと、やっぱり当時野党であった自民党が非常に政策的に議論をして、そして議論の中でいいものが生まれてきたからだと思ってます。そういう意味では私は野党がしっかりというか野党が常に政権交代しうる野党がいるということが日本にとってすごく重要なことだと思っています。
For example, when the Democratic Party was the majority party and LDP was the minority party, they had to come up with the very difficult task of raising consumer tax. And in that, behind, LDP did a lot of discussion on this issue. And I do believe that this is important, that whenever there is a current administration, there should be an opposition party that is strong enough that it is possible for that party to change places.
それはやはり野党にしっかりしてもらうということなんですが、今回の平和安全法制でも残念なことに野党第一党の民主党からは全く対案が出なかった、まともな対案が出なかった。これは私は野党にもう少ししっかりしてもらいたいと思っています。
So I think it is very important that the other parties, the minority parties, have to be very, very strong as well. For example, when we had this deliberation on the peace security law, the number one opposition party, the Democratic Party, did not come up with a very serious counter proposal.
選挙区制度は小選挙区になって政権交代はしやすいと思いますので、野党時代にどう過ごすかにかかってるんじゃないかと思います。
So I think in terms of changing the administration is becoming easier because of the small district way of voting that has come about. So it is important for the opposition party to work while they are in the opposition.
Thank you. Yeah, right over here.
Hi, my name is Sovi. I'm a scholar of the Japan World Bank Graduate Scholarship Program. So thank you for your support of your country for the educational programs. I was at the Kennedy School. I'm now founder of Majoritas Global, one of the leading digital political campaigning firms in the world, running the campaigns for Governor Joko Widodo, Indonesia, and President Sirisena. Sure.
何キャンペーンですか？
What campaign are you doing?
Digital political campaigning for the president of Indonesia and Sri Lanka, Sirisena.
Digital political campaign?
で、
Yes.
インドネシアのジョコウィ大統領とスリランカの首相の応援。
The question is, Japan has recently passed a law that allows for digital political campaigning. To what degree you think this law will influence the participation of the younger demographic in the elections, upcoming elections in
日本で
Japan?
もその政治デジタル化の運動が始
Thank
ま
you.
ったので、これによってどれだけ若者が参加するようになると思いますか。
インターネットですか、インターネットの
インターネットキャンペーン
選挙ができる。一つは非常にインターネットの普及やフェイスブック、ツイッターなどの普及、それも日本で、選挙期間中もできるようになったので、非常に若い人たちが政治に興味を持ってくれていますと同時に、今までのように政治家も支援の団体だけを見るのではなくて、多くの若者や国民に向けて発信をしていく必要が、自分の意見をきちんと発信していく必要がある。これは日本の政治にとって非常に有益なことだと思っています。
Yes, in Japan also internet, Facebook, Twitter, these are becoming very popular, and now they could be used during election as well. So this brought about interest from more younger people and also other people in general. And so now the politicians can not only address the groups that support them, but also they have to make their opinion very clear and present it to the entire electorate. And that way, I think they can participate in this kind of election better.
In Japan, so in the US,
米国では
social media is
ソーシャルメディア
critically important now.
とても大切だ。
And one of the reasons for President Obama's success in 2000,
ツイッターから、
yeah, 8 and 12. In Japan, the election law prevents campaigning,
だけど選挙運動し
going door to door, posters,
ポスターなどに
tobetsu homon to ka ne? Door to door campaigning is not allowed during the, right before the election.
選挙の直前
選
に
挙の直前に個別訪問しちゃいけない、
そう
ありますあります。
Right? It's not allowed under the Japanese law. Under the new internet law, will politicians or political parties be allowed to mobilize and turn out the vote?
みんなをね、投票してもらうために人を起動するってことをやっていいんですか。
Right before the election or on election day?
例えば投票日にそういうことをやっていいんですか。
そういうことはやっちゃいけないです。
Yeah.
そうじゃなくて自分の意見を発信したり、活動を発信することができるっていうそういう
インターネット
はいインターネットとして。
No, they cannot mobilize for people to go for vote.
それまではそれすらできなかった。最近まではそれすらできなかっ
But they can actually send their opinions and their positions and activity on the internet. In the past, they couldn't even do that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. Yes, sir. Right, second row here.
Hello, Scott Seaman with Eurasia Group. Thank you very much for talking with us today. My question is, Prime Minister Abe has been emphasizing that in the next election, he wants to make a subject of debate be constitutional revision. But at the same time, he's also talking about refocusing attention and political capital
政治資本の話
on the economy.
Did you say e-economy?
The economy. 経済そのもの。
The economy.
経済そのもの。
た。経済
The economy, okay.
So, as you give him advice for the next election,
次の選挙というのは
how will you advise him to balance those two priorities, both a focus on the economy and constitutional revision as a campaign
憲
issue?
法修正この2つにどうやってバランスを取ったらいいかっていうアドバイスができますか。
自民党の党是というか自民党は憲法を改正することが党の中核の使命ということになって設立されて60年前に設立された党です。
を改正するって言ったわけですか。
憲法を改正することを党是として60年前に設立された政党です。
LDP was established 60 years ago as a core mission to do the amendment of the Constitution.
そして、総理も憲法改正について歴史的なチャレンジを始めるということはおっしゃっています。
And Prime Minister is also saying that they are going to start a historical move to bring about constitutional amendment.
しかし何が優先順位か、特に次のネクストエレクションに関しての何が優先順位かというと、間違いなく 100% アブソルートリー経済です。経済。経済です。
One is to put priority to the next election, then it is 100% absolutely economy.
というのもアベノミクスの成果で、いろんな指標数字が四半世紀ぶり、20年ぶりとかいい数字になってますが、まだまだそれが非常に強固だというところまでは来ていません。
So ever since the introduction of Abenomics, a lot of the economic indices have risen really high, like some of them in the last 20 years or compared to 25 years ago. So the numbers are rising, but they have not reached the point that it is a solid rise.
安倍総理が今回総裁選で無投票で勝利してすぐに新しいアベノミクス3本の矢というのを提示をしました。
And also Prime Minister Abe in the last general election went ahead and won the election and came up with the Abenomics called the Three Arrows.
平和安全法制という歴史的な法律が成立した今、ここからは経済だと思います。
And now that this historical bill of peace and security has been adopted, I think the future is going to be economy, economy, and economy.
I want to follow up if I could. The stunning slowdown in Chinese economic growth, growing speculation that the U.S. In the third quarter will slow considerably, all raise the possibility that right before the upper house election, the global economy could be slowing down again. A lot of what you talked about today was structural reform, which is absolutely essential. But politically, how is Prime Minister Abe going to breathe some life into the economy or give some vision on the economy before the upper house election, when the global economy may be in more trouble even than it is today?
確かに中国経済、中国の株価の影響を受けて日本の株価が乱高下した、やや最近では下がったということは事実です。
Yes, it is true in terms of Chinese economy because of the falling of the Chinese stock. The Japanese stock has become a little more volatile and it has these days a little bit lower than before.
しかし確実に安倍政権になってから日本の経済は改革も進め、そしてその効果が出てきていることも間違いがありません。
However, after Abe administration came in, the Japanese economy has gone through reforms, and I think its result has been showing as well.
今回総理は1億総活躍社会というのを目標として掲げられました。
And this time around, the Prime Minister has come up with the notion of the all 100 million people is in the economy.
と同時に介護で離職する人をなくすということも掲げられました。
And also try to avoid these people who have to quit job because they have to take care of somebody else.
そういったことは国民の皆さんに非常に好意を持って受け止められることだというふうに思います。
And I think those moves will have an effect of citizens to take it as a good thing for them.
しかしと同時に私も先ほどスピーチの中で言ったように、例えば雇用改革、それから長時間労働の改革、非常に労働市場の改革っていうのは難しいけれども常に取り組んでいかなきゃいけない改革だと思っています。
And also, I have touched in my speech in terms of employment reform, long hour work reform, but reform of labor market is something that we always have to be working on.
言いたいのは国民のすべてに受け入れられる優しい政策と同時に難しいけれども果敢に取り組んでいく改革、この両方を一緒に進めていくということが重要なんじゃないかと思います。
I think it is important that yes, we do come up with a reform that is kind and good to the citizens, but also we have to work on those reforms that are not easy and difficult.
Thank you. Back to the audience. Yes, ma'am. Right in the middle here.
Hi, thank you. Victoria Guida, I'm a reporter with Politico. On TPP, you expressed confidence that it would be able to make it through the diet if a deal is concluded this week. If it isn't, if a deal is not concluded in October, given all the political considerations, elections, does it start to become harder? Does the political situation change?
選挙がありますからどう思いますか。もし通らなかったらどういう見通しになります。
先ほど私は通ることに自信があるって言ったのではなくて、ぜひ成立させてほしいと交渉当事者でもありませんので、言いました。しかし通らない場合も十分あり得るというふうに思います。通ったら通ったでその TPP が成立したことを前提としたいろんな対策が必要になると思いますし、また通らなければこれを成立させるためにさらに努力を続けていくということだと思います。
I have mentioned earlier, not too much the confidence in the agreement of TPP at the end of the week, but rather a very strong desire that it will be. And if the agreement is concluded, then we'll have to come up with different, with the premises that the agreement is reached, there are certain measures that will be taken. And if it is not adopted, the premises is not going to be concluded, then we will have to work on different aspects on it and come up with different measures.
Inada Sensei, thank you. I'm afraid our Constitution makes it too hard for you to become the first woman to become president of the United States. But those who follow Japanese politics know that increasing numbers of commentators in Japan are saying you could be the first woman to become prime minister. But for now, we thank you for coming and wish you a really successful visit to Washington and lots of success when you return home. Thank you.